wasn't one of them.
But maybe now, right? Because the Commons Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, says he wants to change all that by introducing improvements like ventilating rooms, installing fans to tackle hot flushes and make working hours more flexible.
We're joined now by the author and broadcaster Mariella Frostrup, who's written a book about her experiences. Morning, Mariella, and the GP and women's health specialist, Dr. Nighat Arif. Morning, Nighat. It's lovely to see you both. Mariella, if I could just come to you first of all, what is happening in the House of Commons and why is it so important that they're seen to be doing something?
Well, it's essentially important. First of all, what's happening is the Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Lindsay Hoyle, is announcing today measures with which to support menopausal women. And I would love to be, incredibly triumphant about it. But the fact that it's taken over 2,000 years for menopause to be recognised as something that happens to 50% of the population and, is a liminal period of life that women need a little bit of support going through is still, to me, quite a shocking state of affairs. So I'm absolutely thrilled about today. I'm going to be there this evening celebrating with the Speaker. And the more menopause gets mentioned in the Houses of Parliament, the better, really, because it might filter down through wider society. I mean, the struggles that women have, 1 in 10 women leave their jobs as a result of menopausal symptoms. And it's a real brain drain. These are women, experienced women, obviously. And by the time you reach, your mid-40s and onwards, which is when you're most likely to be going through the worst symptoms. So, I mean, it's a fantastic, really, really brilliant thing that's happening. I just wish it hadn't taken over 2,000 years.
Dr. Nighat, let me check in with you. Good morning. Hiya.
Morning.
We mentioned a couple of the proposals, the practical things like ventilation and fans and working hours. What are the kind of things that you would like to see in all workplaces, not just for MPs in Parliament and their staff, but what could all employers be doing to help?
Firstly, I have to say that through loads of brilliant campaigning from Mariella, also well-being of women as well, we've got Make the Menopause Matter campaign as well, and also Know Your Menopause and BBC Breakfast. I have to say hats off to you guys because you did Wake Up to the Menopause, as Louise mentioned, back in 2019. This is a collective of all those groups getting together and saying, let's look at all the aspects that women are affected, because 1 million women, either through surveys we know, consider either leaving their work, don't take that promotion that they should have, or they're affected by their working conditions and are financially impacted later on. And that is something that we can't have. If it's that glass ceiling that we're talking about when it comes to gender equality, well, we need to be tackling that. So this is a collective that's come together, and loads of employers have already got on board. The BBC, in fact, women at the BBC, I did a talk for them only about a month ago talking about HRT and treatment options when they go and see their NHS doctor. The Royal Mail, Tesco's, the NHS Confederation, they've all come on board already. The changes don't have to be huge, John. They can be very small, from making sure that you've got breathable materials that the woman is able to wear, have a fan, she's able to take toilet breaks, that she's able to go to her appointments to the GP when she wants to discuss her HRT options or even go to a specialist. Because remember, we always think about menopause as being something that older women get, but actually menopausal symptoms can affect younger women who've gone through primary ovarian insufficiency. They might have gone through surgical menopause or chemical menopause. So the fact that employers are taking on board, just like we do with pregnancy, that this menopausal symptoms can affect women in the workplace is fabulous. But only small changes need to be made, but small changes create huge waves.
Mariella, one of the things that I'm really interested to read is that we mentioned, didn't we, that in the House of Commons they're supplying ventilation and fans. Now, is that the cliche of what happens to a woman in menopause who just gets hot? It's much broader than that, isn't it? It's a whole world of mental anguish that also needs to be addressed.
I think at the moment, what's so important, as Nighat was saying, that all of those symptoms are focused on. But to me, the most important thing of all, and, I say this not as a doctor, obviously, is that we can talk about it. Because as you've just said, there's a myriad of symptoms. I mean, we counted 50 the other day, and we're still counting because it hasn't been investigated nearly enough apart from anything else. And some of the most debilitating symptoms are the hidden ones. It's the things like osteoporosis and heart condition, which can result because of the catastrophic drop in hormones. And it's also things like anxiety and insomnia. They're incredibly common symptoms, but that until very recently weren't even recognised as such. So women going, through this difficult period in their lives suddenly think they're tipping over the edge. They're going crazy. They often end up going to the doctor and getting prescribed antidepressants because of the fact that they're consumed by things like anxiety and insomnia. And the trouble is, until we have it out in the wider culture, until we're all talking about it, until there are facilities at work in order to at least create an understanding environment, we're not going to learn any more about it. So it's really important. Every little baby step is really, really important in righting what I think has been a really centuries-long wrong that speaks to the fact that women really aren't in an equal position in our society, and particularly in our workplaces, still to this day. Excuse me, to this day.
You are excused. Mariella, when you're in Parliament today and you're with Mr. Speaker and he's signing this pledge, you'll be looking around this historic place, all the wood panelling and the sort of gold paintings and all that sort of stuff. What would you say to MPs of all parties and to the Commons and parliamentary authorities about what more they can do going forward to set an example, really, for workplaces across the country?
Well, Menopause Mandate does have some very specific goals, which is why all of us have got together in this coalition, the likes of Davina McCall, Penny Lancaster, Lisa Snowdon, doctors across the board. There's so many, in fact, almost all of the big sort of pioneering menopause players are involved. And what we want to see is every woman, as she gets into her early 40s, get an appointment with a specialist who actually knows about the menopause, because unfortunately at the moment there isn't a compulsion for doctors to be fully trained in menopause, and not all of them can be, but we'd like to see more of them so that there's one in every surgery across the land. We'd also like to see HRT made free, because it absolutely should not be a socio-economic decision. There are women out there who can't afford the number of prescriptions. The government promised to change that. Caroline Harris, MP, has been campaigning very strongly. It's now been pushed back to next April, and we're terrified it's going to be pushed back further. So we want to see that change as well, because no woman should ever find herself in the situation where, just because of a lack of funds, because she wants to put food on the table for her children, she can't go out and perform to her best ability, whether it's doing her job or whatever else.
Mariella, thank you very much indeed. Dr. Nighat, thank you both for talking to us this morning.
It's coming up